The final echoes of a roaring crowd after a confusion head flips have faded, and the banners from the 2024 North America International Championships have been put away. Yet the energy in the Pokemon trading card game community remains electric, as some trainers take a well-deserved break to recharge and gossip about future cool cards to come such as Dusknoir and Terrapagos EX, and others are already prepping their decks for the battles to come. The 2025 season is upon us, promising a new chance to be crowned the ultimate Pokemon master, and trainers across the globe are eagerly fiddling with their cards as they look forward to start getting championship points at League Cups and Challenges starting from July 1st to start their journey to qualify for the 2025 Pokemon World Championships. And so you may be wondering right now, what deck should I play at these events? There are currently so many cool and viable decks, but not all of them are on the same power level, and if you want to have a good shot at getting championship points, you're going to benefit from combining a powerful deck with good decision making. That to me is the best recipe for success in the Pokemon TCG. And so in this video, I will talk about the top 10 decks that you should be playing at these tournaments in order to start getting those precious championship points. But before we begin with our top 10, we have an honorable mention. Regidrago Vstar just barely didn't make the list. This deck surprised us all at NAIC with Jacob I getting top 16 and has since enjoyed a big boost in popularity, but I really think this deck will easily break the top 10 once Kyurem from Shrouded Fable comes out. What makes Kyurem so good is the Trifrost attack, which reads, discard all energy attached to this Pokemon. This attack does 110 damage to 3 of your opponent's Pokemon. And while its ability Anti-Plasma reduces the attack cost from 3 water and 2 metal energy to a single colorless energy if there is a card with Colress in its name in your opponent's discard pile, and other decks will tech in Kyurem as an anti-Lost Zone tech, Regidrago Vstar will be able to copy the attack with Apex Dragon, allowing it to take out multiple low HP Pokemon against decks that like setting up, such as Charizard EX, Dragapult EX, or Gardevoir EX. This will give Regidrago Vstar a new threat level that it didn't have before, and is probably the only missing piece to be added to its already powerful arsenal of attacks alongside Dragapult EX, Raging Bolt EX, and Hisuian Gudra Vstar for it to become a top tier deck. Coming in at number 10 is Ancient Box. This deck revolves around Roaring Moon's Vengeance Fletching, which reads, this attack does 10 more damage for each ancient card in your discard pile. There's a lot of ancient cards in the deck to make sure you have plenty to discard, and the engine synergizes perfectly with the deck, with Professor Sidle's Vitality allowing you to power up multiple Roaring Moon, and Explorer's Guidance helping you discard other ancient cards to build up your damage output. And while the jury is still out on whether you should play with Miraidon as an optional secondary attacker, or Walking Wake as an easy one retreater, or which ace-spec to choose between Awakening Drum or Secret Box, the strategy of the deck doesn't change at all. This deck always seems to be very underrated, and is dismissed due to the time it takes to build up to the high 300 or more damage numbers it needs to take down Pokemon like Dragapult EX or Charizard EX. Those two are probably its worst matchups. However, the deck actually does really well against other top tier decks such as Raging Bolt EX, Lugia Vstar, and Lost Box, as it usually is able to trade prizes very effectively, especially in the endgame where you have built up your ancient cards in the discard pile and Roaring Moon is swinging for 240 to 280 damage. Single price decks sometimes have a problem keeping up with the powerful rule box Pokemon in the format, but Ancient Box seems to have just enough to be able to succeed if it hits the right matchups. At number 9 we have Snorlax Stall. This deck got a boost from Twilight Masquerade with the new accompanying flute, which reads, reveal the top 5 cards of your opponent's deck. You may choose any number of basic Pokemon you find there and put those Pokemon onto their bench. This gives the deck a different way to put opposing basic Pokemon into play alongside the familiar Erika's Invitation and Mantine. Other than that, the deck plays very similarly to how it was played by keeping Snorlax in the active with its block ability to prevent retreating, and continually bringing up Pokemon that don't threaten it with Counter Catcher. Whilst you do this, you try to discard your opponent's switching cards through the use of Misfortune Sisters by discarding from the top 5 cards of their deck, or Airy by discarding the cards directly from their hand. This deck also surprised us with Ben Cryer getting top 16 at NAIC, as it didn't seem too well positioned before the event and during, with Lugia Vstar being one of the most popular and powerful decks. But clearly if you hit the right matchups and you tag for the top ones such as Ben did with Giacomo and 4 Temple of Sinnoh, you can possibly overcome anything at this point. Next up we have Chien-pao EX, which revolves around Excalibur's Super Cold ability, allowing you to break the rule of only being able to attach one energy card per turn, and now you can attach unlimited water energy cards each turn. With its ability up and running, you are able to power up powerful Pokemon such as Chien-pao EX to take down high HP Pokemon, Iron Hands EX to pressure single price Pokemon, and Radiant Greninja to threaten your opponent's setup even on the bench. Many times the issue is either setting up or keeping the Excalibur around long enough, and that's what makes people think twice about using it. But the deck still had a very good showing, with Nicholas Moffat placing 17th at NAIC with this deck, adjusting it only ever so slightly to include a 70 HP Bidoof for those Dragapult EX matchups. This deck has all the right tools to succeed, so don't count it out yet, as when it sets up, it feels like the best deck in the format. Miraidon EX decks come in at number 7, after a stellar performance at NAIC, with Mike Gibbs placing in top 16 and Ian Robb in top 32. These decks play a huge variety of attacking Pokemon at this point, with Miraidon EX able to bench them immediately with its tandem unit ability, and the deck focusing on electric generators to quickly power up an Iron Hands EX to pressure with Ampy very much. Raikou and Raichu helped the deck as alternate attackers as well, and Twilight Masquerade brought it Iron Thorns EX to add an extra layer of disruption for the deck by shutting down Rulebox abilities with initialization, and Blood Moon Ursaluna EX to help close out games once the deck is running out of electric generators to accelerate energy. While the Charizard EX matchup remains extremely difficult, Dragapult EX is helping keep Charizard EX in check. There's a clear reduction in the presence of Charizard EX in the Twilight Masquerade metagame nowadays, and that can only benefit this deck. All of this, combined with the increased popularity and viability of Lugia Vstar, is the perfect storm for Miraidon EX to continue to cement itself as a viable and powerful deck in the metagame. At number 6 we have Dragapult EX, one of the new major archetypes coming out from Twilight Masquerade with a pretty simple plan. Use Phantom Dive as soon as you can to set up multiple Pokemon to be KO'd at once, with the right damage counter placement. The most successful Dragapult EX decks at NAC by Chas Fincham and Michael Pramod basically took Charizard EX's established engine with Pidgeot EX, Bibarel, Rotom V, Luminion V and Cleffa and rolled with it. However, the Lost Zone version of the deck also had success, and 8 of these versions made day 2. By using the Lost Zone, Draclo can help complement the flower selects from Comfey by reaching deeper into the deck to find combo pieces, and Dragapult EX gains access to powerful attackers such as Cramorant and Sableye, which perfectly complements the damage counter placement and is boosted by a huge reduction in Jirachi use as of late. With Twilight Masquerade having just released, Dragapult EX still has that new shiny toy aura that comes with a new set, and with only NAC as a major tournament, these Pokemon still feels like it has to prove itself in the metagame beyond it. At number 5 we have Charizard EX, the once undisputed king of the format but that has since had to step down from its throne. This deck is quite simple in that it tries to overcome anything by setting up Charizard EX after Charizard EX thanks to the backbone of Pidgeot EX and Bibarel. It will also weave in Radiant Charizard as an attacking option to mess with its opponent's prize trade, and it will take advantage of the fact that Charizard EX's Burning Darkness attack keeps getting more and more powerful as your opponent gets closer to winning the game, adding 30 extra damage for each prize card they take. The deck is pretty well established and one of the big threats to take into account for any tournament, and precisely because of that is that it might struggle sometimes. Many decks try to outpace it, such as Turbo Lost Box. Others try to trade favorably against it, such as Gardevoir EX and Lugia Vstar. And others try to brute force their way through speed and weakness, such as Raging Bolt EX with Teal Mask Ogerpon EX. Regardless, this deck is still extremely powerful and threatening, but it finds itself in a more balanced position than it was prior to Twilight Masquerade's release. At number 4 we have Raging Bolt EX. This deck goes hard and fast since the very first turn thanks to Professor Sada's vitality and Teal Dance getting energy into play so that Bellowing Thunder can 1-KO anything in front of it. That's pretty much the deck's only strategy and purpose. And while Teal Mask Ogerpon EX and Sandy Shock can be crucial attackers sometimes, it's all about just KOing whatever is in front of you no matter how much HP it has. The deck does this very efficiently and has the perfect support in Earth and Vessel to juggle 3 different energy types. Teal Mask Ogerpon EX really brought this deck to a whole new level over the previous Sandy Shock CX engine, and with a top 16 showing at NAIC by Brandon Salazar with a pretty cool build including a Flutter Mane, this deck is sure to be a favorite at your upcoming local tournaments and should be taken as a very serious threat. If you have enjoyed the video so far and found the information useful, please consider becoming a tablemon channel member through the join button down below. For as low as $1.99 a month, you can help support the creation of these videos. At number 3 we have the most popular deck at NAIC, Lugia Vstar. This deck unlocked a whole new level of power thanks to Legacy Energy opening up Iron Hands EX as an attacker, which combined with Cinccino means the pressure Lugia Vstar can apply to both rulebox Pokemon and single prizers is immense. All the deck needs to do is discard 2 Archeops to then summon Starling back onto the bench and start powering up anything they need. This strategy has been around since November of 2022, and Lugia Vstar has enjoyed different periods of both dominance and neglect, but it seems like Legacy Energy means the deck is now back at the top and will continue to be so until Lugia Vstar finally rotates at some point next year. As a bonus, there were also a few variants at NAIC that gave up on using Cinccino and just fully focused on using multiple Iron Hands EX, going so far as to include basic energy into the deck along with Earthen Vessel to help find them. This deck is powerful, straightforward, and has the right tools and support to handle pretty much anything. As long as you have an answer to Iron Thorns EX's initialization ability, which completely shuts down the deck, you know that as long as you discard your Archeops early enough, you will have a chance to take down anything. In second place, we have Turbo Lost Box decks. These are incredibly adaptable and versatile as they can play a wide array of attackers to cover different decks of the metagame. Getting cards to a Lost Zone through Flower Select, Lost Vacuum and Colress's Experiment is the main goal of the deck, which then opens up the possibility for it to power up whatever it needs through Mirage Gate or target down multiple Pokemon with Sableye. NAIC winner Andrew Hedrick and top 8 finisher Andrew Gantner used an almost identical list which included Iron Hands EX, Iron Thorns EX, and Blood Moon Ursaluna EX as the main attacking options to go with Cramorant, Sableye, and Radiant Greninja. These powerful Pokemon combined with the turbo aspect of Pokestop and Lost Vacuum proved to be too much for the metagame to handle, and positioned this deck in a whole new light and just in time before the Kyurem from Shrouded Fable gets released. Based on its victory and its longevity, you can definitely expect Lost Box decks to be out in force at League Cups and League Challenges, so make sure you account for that. And finally at number 1, we have Gardevoir EX. Its Psychic Embrace ability has been at the forefront of the Pokemon TCG since it got released in April 2023, almost winning the World Championships. This ability allows you to power up any Psychic type Pokemon you need, whilst placing 2 damage counters per energy you attach, and funny coincidence, there are 2 very powerful Pokemon, Drifloon and Screamtail, which both do more damage the more damage counters they have. Twilight Masquerade brought Munkidori, Hyper Aroma, and On First Stamp to Gardevoir EX, and it seems like these 2 really pushed it to a whole new level. Munkidori allows the deck to take even more advantage of the self-damage from Psychic Embrace, as Adrenabrain allows you to move up to 3 damage counters from your side of the field to theirs as long as it has a Dark Energy attached. This requirement is easy to fulfill, as you should very rarely have any problem dedicating your energy attachment for turn to it. This extra damage can either allow you to hit the right numbers, such as a Bravery Charm Drifloon getting to the 330 magic number against Charizard EX and Dragapult EX, or making Flutter Mane's Hex Herald a much more menacing attack. The debate is still on which of the 2 A-specs is better, Hyper Aroma or On First Stamp, and while there are supporters for both, and they place 2nd and 3rd at NAIC respectively, I personally think On First Stamp is just too good. Not only as a more powerful disruption card than Iono early in the game by putting your opponent to a 2-card hand as soon as the 2nd turn, but also as a draw card when trying to dig for a specific combo or find a missing piece that you need for your turn. This should give you an overview of the upcoming top threats you'll likely face at the upcoming League Cups and League Challenges. However, local metas could develop that might favor one deck over another, and it's always important to take that into account and possibly consider more direct attacks against what you think will be the more popular decks in the room. It's much easier to account for playing against a specific matchup in a room of 40 people than in a room of 2,000 such as regionals. And that's it, trainers. You've seen the top contenders, the meta breakers, the decks that you'll have to counter at the top. And now it's your turn to grab your deck, choose your best fitting sleeves, and get ready to start your own journey to the 2025 Pokemon TCG World Championships. I hope this video has been useful for you, and wish you the best of luck at your upcoming tournaments. Thanks for watching, and until next time. If you want to support the channel, you can use code tablemon to get 5% off at Potent Store for your online codes, 10% off for your sealed product at Flipside Gaming, and 10% off on your aluminum accessories at TC Evolutions. Or if you're looking to buy singles or sleeves, you can fill up your cart and close the tab, then click on the affiliate link in the description and check out. That way you can support the channel over at TCG Player, Card Market, and Dragon Shield. ¿Eres de México y necesitas cartas de Pokémon? Busca Hyper Beam Cards en Facebook e Instagram. Y si estás en Tijuana, búscalos en el local C27 en el centro comercial Otay.